the right, who will be holding up cards to let you know when you're running out of time. And if that doesn't work, we'll stand up and might just throw something at you. So, yes. We will break for lunch at 12:20 to have a group photograph taken. The group photograph will happen on the far side of the building, outside the canteen, which is where lunch will be served. If you could just please follow the ushers at that point. So I would like to welcome all of you to the forum, and I will now hand over to the Statistician General, Mr. Rusenga Maluleke, to please do the opening for us. SG.
It's rare that I get my hands clapped for me before I speak. I've forgotten my piece of paper there, Ria. There's a piece of paper that you gave me that you said I must keep it with me all the time if I want to present very well. Tracy, let me thank you, but let me take note of my colleague, friend, and sister, Nomfundo Chabalala, yes, who is the DG for the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. And I've always wanted to own a fish, so I guess today she brought one. Let me take note of Ms. Deshni Pillay, who stands here on behalf of the CEO of Sanbi, who is not able to join us. And let me take note of Ms. Christine Magu from the Kenyan Bureau of Statistics, who has done a lot of work on environment. Now, Rian, next time don't give me lists that have limited names, because I have a lot of friends that are seated with me in front. Now, you make it a lot more difficult. I've been given 20 minutes to speak, but because I'm not a very good public speaker, I'll try and keep it to, since 0 is not a number, as my son always tells me when he wants some money. He says, no, since 0 is not a number, just add a 0 on the right-hand side. So I'll try and stick to less than that, but do stop me, because there's a legend coming from my village that I don't stop talking unless I'm stopped. It's very critical that we talk about our future, and I want to recall the late Minister in the Presidency, Jackson Mthembu. Before I recall him, and may God rest his soul, I have been 5 years, Nomfundo, in my position as Statistician General. As I told you, the term ends end of this month, but let us not cause any panic. There are processes afoot to look at that. In the 5 years I've been in office, I've served 5 ministers. 5 ministers, and he was one of them. And he said the future of policy making and implementation is upon us, and experience has taught us that without measurement, our boat will not sail far. I think this becomes very, very critical in terms of the environment as we move forward, especially in our cases. Let's just say that our vision, as let's just say, is improving lives through data ecosystems. Not the kind of ecosystems that we find in environment, but the data ecosystems, which include environmental systems. And in the process, when we talk about natural capital accounting, we actually talk about a space that gives us practical tools to measure how nature supports people and the economy. And in the nature of things, we can see that the economy, which in our case we have a system of national accounts, and We have a society which talks to demographic statistics and indicators. We've just come out of a census that we conducted in February all the way to May. And then comes the environment. You can see in the way that the colleagues who have prepared these slides for me, DG, have put environment. You can see the economy is always small, although it runs the world. The society and societal issues, whether they come from environment, are always there. But the environment is really, really, really big. When they were talking to me, and I thought I said I will tell this story. The former leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, who just passed, and may God rest his soul, and I'm no communist. When he left office, he went to run an organization that has to do with environment. Al Gore, when he lost against George Bush, the junior, he went to run matters of environment. So in my village, they say when it's towards sunset, always follow the beds, because they will tell you where it's safer. So in the world, we must always watch what leaders are doing, especially when it comes to environment. They do a lot of things, but when it comes to environment, we must watch a lot more closer, because that's the way to go. Having said that, we can talk about the framework in the system of environmental economic accounting. And of course, it was adopted by the United Nations Statistics Commission in 2012. We are a member, as NCA, but not just a member, an active member. There is nothing that gets discussed on matters statistics the world over, and NCA is not party to that. On emerging issues, and we've been asked to be party to different committees. In the process, as we've been asked to do so, ourselves and Sanbi here at home, we have been working together at a level of experts to make sure that we jointly drive the process while the department looks at matters of policy. How far have we come? Over the last 5 years, coming out of, I don't want to go back to the year 2000, because if I take you to the year 2000, you will tell me it was a small beginning. I want us to go all the way to say, as we move forward towards 2015, we're making little steps in mineral accounts for South Africa, having had water and energy accounts and fisheries coming in. And then we moved a lot more by the year 2020. Water continuing, and of course, land and terrestrial ecosystem accounts, accounts for protected areas, natural river ecosystems accounts, and of course, catchment areas in terms of the water resource. But look at where we are going. We are going forward. It's already the year 2022. Actually, our graph is rising. If you think matters of environment, if we are relaxed about them, when I was young, growing up in the village, as you will hear many village stories, we knew that by this time, once the leaves have fallen in August, in September, the trees start to bloom. And in October, we start smelling the rain when it's coming from afar, as head boys and cattle boys and girls growing up in villages. These days, all you smell is dust. Come October, come December, a bit of rain, and beyond that, then come February, March, then all floods. These are kinds of challenges that we are facing. And of course, we have to make sure that we hold on steadily as a country to get ready for our way forward. Tracy, how many minutes am I left with? Don't give me 10. Give me 7. Yeah. NCA is a very interesting organization. My sister Nomfundo when she took over the responsibilities as a Director General. So she calls me one day, says, "Hey, my brother, you know there's this memo that must go to Cabinet." And I said, "My sister, Steve Biko once wrote a book called Black Men on Your Own." And actually, if we were to go and ask him to review the book, on that day she called me, would have written Black Woman on Your Own. Because I told her, you are on your own. We don't enter the policy space. We have an independence that we have to protect in terms of defining our methods. But as regards the work that we have to deal with, we deal with official statistics. We have to protect official statistics, dealing with issues of working with other countries and other organs of state, as well as other agencies. And in the process, we have a responsibility to coordinate on the production of statistics so that there are no duplicates. And we have to advance issues of comparability and optimize the use of official statistics. But in all that, we will not forget our independence, because it's enshrined in our Statistics Act of 1999, which we are looking at for purposes of increasing on coordination. Now, what does it mean when we talk about the national strategy that has to take us forward in terms of looking forward? The national capital accounting is widely used to provide credible evidence for integrated planning, decision-making in support for developmental needs and goals for our country, and even beyond. Other nations will use this. But if you ask me, it's as far as we work. We do measurement at STATSA, we leave issues of policy implementation, decision-making to my sister and friend. She said to me, if I don't qualify always my sister and friend, when I go back there, I'm in serious trouble. So Tracy, I have to always remember that. But what are the goals that we are looking at? We have to make sure that the national capital accounting is widely used. It has to, we have to make sure that it has the robust data that will make sure that it helps us to reach those decisions. Otherwise, if it doesn't have robust data based on credible methods, there's no way we are going. That statement that the late Jackson Mthembu spoke about, we are not going to sail very far. This institutional mechanism is very interesting in terms of our arrangements, because one, we have our own directorate which will coordinate the implementation and monitoring of the national capital accounting strategy. We have to continue to embrace partnerships to be able to grow our relationships to advance this cause, because that's our responsibility. It's even in our focus areas in terms of partnerships. But we have to make sure that these three key institutions that deal with advisory, coordination, and working groups do not fail. So if there's one thing that coming out of 2019 to here, in terms of the way we are pitching ourselves going forward, is that we should never fail. It's quite interesting to see who the critical players are, especially those in the policy space. But when they brought this, I said, look at the South African national parks. My village where I grew up is 2 kilometers away from the Kruger National Park. So I grew up knowing this sign before I would even know all this, all these emblems and signs, some of which have changed over time. But if you look at different institutions, organs of state, we have a lot more work, and we appreciate and would want to acknowledge these institutions in the form of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment Department, Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation, Water and Sanitation at the time, and there are issues that we have worked here in terms of when we were, the department was joined. We have already started work. Science and Innovation, National Treasury, National Business Initiative, and SANBI, as well as Water Research Commission, and of course, my favorite, the South African National Parks, which happens to be my neighbor in the village. But we have to appreciate the work and that we have been working with these entities and departments in terms of the strategic advisory group that helps us pitch our way forward. Tracy is looking at me and she's saying I'm having 5 minutes, but I'm not going to take 5 more minutes. Yeah, the new series, the Land and Terrestrial Ecosystem Accounts 1990 to 2014, which was released in December 2020. In October last year, we had accounts for protected areas. And of course, as we move forward, the challenges, we are saying that interest in natural capital account is growing faster than the current institutional capacity, both within Stats SA and beyond, even within our departments, in government, in SANBI. I think the interest is growing. So we have to clarify roles and responsibilities for accounts where other institutions play and make sure that we pull together. Because if we don't clarify roles, we will sit here as those institutions that I've shown and leave others outside. And this is not an exclusive enterprise. We have to work together. If we want to find solutions, we know those that are responsible for measurement, we know those that are responsible for policy, we know that those are responsible for use, but also those who will keep us on our toes by always raising issues when we are not measuring sufficiently enough. If that space is not created and the roles are not clarified, we will be a protectionist society, and we think others are not supposed to be there until it's too late. And of course, we have to deal with resourcing in terms of human and financial resources, which remain a challenge. But let me mention that coming out of 2019, it has been an intensive work. It has been an extensive journey to take. And you can see that together we can make South Africa and the world better. As you can see, if you can't see yourself in these pictures today that were taken previously, just make sure that today when we go and take pictures, you appear. Because then you don't want the history boat to leave you behind. This slide says Ndihela Kwala. It's always my trademark slide when I finish presentations. Ndihela Kwala means that I finish here. It's in one of our languages. It's in Xitsonga. Now, I need to give a context to this before I sit down, Tracy. When I was growing up in the village, DG and colleagues, our mothers could not read and write. And they had to write letters to our fathers in migrant centers, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban. So in the process of writing letters, they could not end a letter with, "I love you, my husband," or "I miss you." Because those words, we were their scribes. Remember, we used to write letters on their behalf. We were not supposed to hear those words. According to village legend, we would go deaf. And we were not supposed to write those words. We were going to go blind if we wrote words like "I love you" or "I miss you" on behalf of our mothers. So it was a standard way of a mother or a father writing to each other and saying "Ndihela Kwala." In Xivenda, Ndifelela Hanef. In Sepedi, Setswana, Sesotho, ke fetsa hona mo. In isiZulu, Angnamaningi, in short for Angnamaningi amagama. And in isiXhosa, they would say "Ngiqeda khona apha ngalomkhulu umbuliso." And Mandela said, "Never and never again," and I want to give this, should we who are in charge of environment whether be it measurement, policy, or otherwise, should we make sure that any member of the society or in the world is left behind by either not being heard or by being affected by our actions or inaction. Because if we don't act and we act now, why are we in these key positions? Then we are not fit to lead. We are not fit to be occupying those positions. So never and never again should we have anyone left behind. In English and Afrikaans, Ndihela Kwala means finish and klar. And I can assure you, Program Director, the next slide is blank. I thank you.
Thank you, SG, for that very inspiring call to action. I'm now going to ask the DGG for the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. DG, sorry, my apologies. My apologies. Yes, I will now ask the SG's sister and friend, DG from Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Ms. Nomfundo Chabalala, to please come and give us some remarks. Thank you, madam.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I normally say positions are not what matters most. I always ask that direct reports that report to me to say, you need to know my name. Because when I leave here, you're not going to call me DG when I'm out there. You need to know my name. So interchangeably, you need to say Nomfundo. But they always say, DG, we don't know how to say that. But I'm saying you need to get used to it. So Tracy, don't worry. You can call me Nomfundo, DG. I'm fine. But thank you so much, and thank you very much, Program Director. And as I was just listening to, we call you, my brother, the SG in our forum of DGs. You know, he's the SG, we are DGs. But I was listening to you, and indeed, what you are highlighting in terms of the journey, in as far as the natural capital accounting, we have come a long way. And I must say, I joined the department last year, but I'm very excited to see that the momentum is going at this rate. And all we can hope for is that when you then go to the media, you are also going to be also talking about the natural capital accounting. And all along, it's about economics, your labor surveys, the social part, and so on. We're looking forward to this part, catching up and being part of the sharing of the statistics, but also beginning to provide a clear sense of policy direction in as far as not only for government. I know that majority of us here are from government, but also the private sector, institution of higher learning, and so on and so forth. So let me acknowledge yourself, Statistician General, my brother. Let me also acknowledge the representative of the CEO. The CEO would have liked to be here, but I guess Deshni will highlight from Sanbi. And the esteemed delegates of the Natural Capital Accounting Forum, I am indeed honored to be part of this important forum. What has been highlighted by the SG is the importance of the partnerships that we have pulled together. As you were saying, there is no way in which any institution can do it alone. We need to be partnering. And as a Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, and our entities, SunParks, Sanbi, we are then quite esteemed to be part of this partnership. And this partnership is to ensure that we have a working team that pulls together critical data sets and also continues to commit to producing environmental statistics. Obviously, this will be led by StatsSA, given that now you've embraced and you are our partners, and we are really excited to be part of this. The environmental statistics provide us with very important and robust source of statistical information, and it adds to the richness of evidence available. As you have highlighted, SG, some of us in our departments have to inform policy, and this is very critical for policy and decision making. And also, we advise our politicians, our principals, and those are the key decision makers. And this type of work is very, very critical. The National Capital Accounting is a framework for numerically describing and analyzing in a consistent way. And I think I would want to emphasize that in a consistent way, it brings together all large quantities of information and ensures that we have good, reliable, and comparable statistics on the rich natural heritage that can also be integrated in the socio-economic statistics. So that's what really is exciting about this whole exercise from us who are in the environmental space, that now are going to be integrated as part of the socio-economic statistics. The NCA, which is the Natural Capital Accounting, complements environmental information, which is already available through existing initiatives. So we have initiatives in our different spaces, but I'm just going to highlight what we have also as a department in terms of various data collection, the state of environment reporting, which is part of the mandate of the department. And we are then going to be an instrumental partner in terms of then working together with StatsSA as you pull together this official statistics in as far as the NCA is concerned. As a department, we are a data provider of some of the fundamental data sets which are required. And I've already made an example of the state of environment reporting. And one of the other critical data sets that we provide is in the South Africa's national land cover. And I have seen through the program that this is one of the elements that you are going to be interacting on, engaging on as part of the agenda in tomorrow's engagements. And also, I think there's also going to be a clear discussion around accounts for strategic water sources area that are currently in production, driven by the department. South Africa has globally exceptional biodiversity and ecosystems that provides a wide array of benefits to the economy, society, and human well-being. And biodiversity and ecosystems are natural capital with immense economic significance in the country. Therefore, the assets and also ecological infrastructure are part of the solution to South Africa's development challenge, which we are faced with, around dealing with poverty, dealing with unemployment, and ensuring that we have an economy that is growing inclusively. The National Biodiversity Assessment of 2018 highlighted that more than 400,000 jobs are linked to biodiversity, drawing in the parts of some of the information that is normally published by Stats SA. Biodiversity economy includes the wildlife economy activities, which is worth billions, and also aspects of bioprospecting, and also biotrade, and medicinal plants, and more. Over the weekend, the minister and some colleagues from BNC, which is Biodiversity and Conservation branch within our department, were engaging with traditional leaders. Given that our work, we need to ensure that we engage with them, and also traditional healers, given the type of work and assets that we are actually dealing with in our natural environment. Therefore, NCA will help us to make better choices and decisions to a sustainable South African future. Partnerships are quite key, and I have already highlighted that, and they are critical for us to pursue the NCA. And we look forward to strengthening these partnerships even more. We need to work together with all the stakeholders, and at the end of the day, with the official statistics that will be then pronounced by Stats SA, and also other key stakeholders already. The SG has alluded to the various government departments, and also entities and private sector and institutions of higher learning, in order to then further this whole process. We are a signatory of a Gaborone Declaration of Sustainability in Africa, which includes a commitment around the natural capital accounting. And South Africa is honored to play a key leadership role in development, implementation, and mainstreaming of the NCAs across the continent. So it's not only just for our country. We want them to see this being mainstreamed across the continent. So therefore, this forum comes at an opportune time. I know that it would have commenced in 2019. Momentum is growing, and we need to be moving beyond South Africa into Africa as a bloc, but also beyond and internationally, in as far as the work that we are doing. So post-2020, Global Biodiversity Framework includes activities on accounting for biodiversity value so that they can be integrated into planning and decision-making, thereby addressing underlying causes of biodiversity loss in order to achieve the vision of 2050, which is a vision where we are saying biodiversity is valued and must be conserved and restored, wisely used in terms of sustainable use, and also maintaining ecosystems and sustaining a healthy planet, and ensuring that we deliver benefits that are essential to all people in a balanced manner. We must not deplete our resources, but also at the same time, they need to be utilized in a balanced manner. So therefore, I would want to wish you all, as esteemed delegates of this forum, to the collaboration that you are still pursuing further, and also the engagements that you are going to have in this forum. All I want to see is us as a country taking the space globally and pursuing and championing the NCAs. Thank you very much, Tracy.
Since I have permission, thank you, Nomfundo, for your very forward-looking talk. I am now calling on Deshni Pillay, the Chief Director for Biodiversity Information and Policy Advice, who will be speaking on behalf of the CEO of SANBI, who unfortunately was not able to join us today. Thank you, Deshni.
So thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Morning, SG. A special greeting to you and to DG for being here this morning. And just wanting to give some apologies for our CEO. NCA is something very special to him. He holds it close to his heart. He's also joined many national and international events where he's spoken quite strongly about natural capital accounting. So he's very sad to not be here this morning. He is in Parliament, however, to defend our annual report. So that's also an important event that he had to be at. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a broad background into SANBI, SANBI's work in the natural capital accounting space, and how we've managed to really leverage of this partnership with Statistics South Africa and the department in order to take this program of work forward. So SANBI was established in 2004 through an act, and our mandate includes the monitoring and reporting on the state of South Africa's exceptional biodiversity. This is quite unique to have an entity that's actually solely responsible for reporting on the state of biodiversity. But it's also appropriate because South Africa is a mega diverse country with exceptional high value biodiversity, especially in its species and ecosystems. And SANBI's mandate is to report on the state of all components of South Africa's biodiversity. And I just wanted to stress that because it's not only, it's really looking at all aspects as required by the Convention on Biodiversity. This makes, of course, SANBI a natural partner to Statistics South Africa for ecosystem accounting, which is really the newest area of natural capital accounting. So as SANBI, we're very pleased to play this role as the technical partner to support Statistics South Africa in compiling these ecosystem accounts. And as you've heard from SG and DG already, that Stats SA is the overall leader for natural capital accounting work in South Africa. They also compile and publish a series of natural capital accounts, and you saw the pictures that SG had put up on his slides. SANBI is also able to provide the technical support in compiling these ecosystem accounting, which are then published by Stats SA. SANBI and Stats SA have worked hand in hand on ecosystem accounting since 2014 and have worked in strong partnership with the Department of Water and Sanitation and the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. The first set of pilot national river account ecosystem accounts were developed in 2014 as part of a donor-funded project. And from there, this relationship and partnership that we've already, DG and SG have already spoken about, has just gotten stronger. Statistics South Africa has a wide reach in terms of the users of information, since we've already heard they publish other statistics within the economic and social sector. And really, this spans across all sectors of the economy, of spheres of government, as well as the private sector, research institutions, and civil society. The publication of ecosystem accounts and related accounts, such as accounts for protected areas, therefore has the potential to take biodiversity science to different audiences. And DG's already mentioned mainstreaming, taking this into sectors that need to have the biodiversity information into their policy and decision making. SANBI works quite closely with the science community in particular to gather and synthesize the best available science on ecosystems and biodiversity. And many of you would be aware of the National Biodiversity Assessment that SANBI publishes quite regularly. The last assessment was published in 2019, and we're up for the next iteration of the assessment. The same foundational science that underpins the biodiversity assessment is also essential for producing the ecosystem accounts. And these include a wide range of different products. So we have the maps and the classifications of all of South Africa's different ecosystem types across the various realms. So freshwater, estuarine, terrestrial, and marine. And these together make up the South African National Ecosystem Classification System. The system provides the vital information of what types of ecosystems we have, what their characteristics are, and where they are located. SANBI is the custodian of the National Ecosystem Classification System on behalf of a wide range of partners who contribute in developing and maintaining it. And then lastly, we are very pleased that this National Ecosystem Classification system was adopted by StatsSA as a national classification in February 2021. And this is quite a big achievement for us because it mainstreams ecosystem classification into the country's statistical systems, giving it the similar status to classification systems related to the economy and within the social dimension. As far as we are aware, this is a first, a world first for a National Statistic Office to have adopted an ecosystem classification system. So it's quite an achievement for us as a country. So now I just want to focus on the value of ecosystems. When you think of accounts, you may automatically think about rands and cents and think about this within financial systems. However, accounting is not always about money. In fact, most of our natural capital accounts are measured in biophysical terms. And as such as the number of hectares of an ecosystem type, the number of jobs created and the benefits that are derived from those jobs, the amount of water produced by catchment, and then also the volume of fish harvested. So these are the various biophysical terms that we can also use to quantify the value of an ecosystem. So these physical values are very powerful in their own right, and we need to be cautious about attempts to translate them into monetary values because we lose the essence of what the system actually can, the value system that this illustrates. So accounting is about systematically measuring stocks and trends in ecosystems and the implications of gains and losses. And these are in the various dimensions, looking at ecological, the social, and the economic implications. There are many examples of things that are important to society that are measured in non-monetary terms. And StatsSA, of course, is the ideal institution because they're always producing these statistics, like literacy rates, unemployment levels, or life expectancy. And so this is the same for ecosystems. Their importance and their value to society can be captured in a range of statistics and indicators, and many of these are non-monetary. So this just implies how diverse value systems of ecosystems can be illustrated, and then the benefits that they provide. As DG has already mentioned, South Africa works very closely with other African countries in a range of partnerships, and this includes projects where SANBI as an entity is working in partnership with other countries like Malawi, Mozambique, Botswana, Ethiopia, Ghana, and Rwanda. And we do this to map the ecosystems. This work supports a range of applications, including spatial biodiversity planning and ecosystem assessment. The work also, through these projects, we do not have any spatial, we have, apologies. Through this project, we have a range of applications, and these include the spatial biodiversity planning and ecosystem assessments. These projects do not focus explicitly on natural capital accounting. They can contribute, however, to NCA work in at least two ways, and this is by providing the science that is needed to underpin ecosystem accounts and by building platforms for collaboration needed to take natural capital accounting work forward within the region. And we have Christine Margu from that will also address us in the program within the next 2 days, and she will speak more about this work in Africa. South Africa is also represented on the steering committee of the Africa Natural Capital Accounting Community of Practice by the department, DFFE, the SANBI, and then of course Stats SA, but you're going to hear more about this after tea. And then the field of ecosystem accounting is generally more advanced in developed countries, especially Europe, the UK, Australia, and Canada. South Africa and Africa are bringing an important global South perspective to this field, which is likely to shape how ecosystems are measured for decades to come. And SANBI is leading in that space because we chair that committee, and that the voice of SANBI in bringing this alternative narrative is very important. Okay, so that's the last. All I wanted to end with is we've got the next 2 days to really deliberate on natural ecosystem accounting, and our expectations of this gathering are high. We're here to really look at how we inspire future learning and innovation in this space, and how, more importantly, how we develop those partnerships. DG and SG have already really set the foundation in how we've managed to build partnerships within the two departments. But within this NCA community of practice, what's important is how we take those partnerships forward and how we develop new partnerships. And then lastly, how we manage to take natural capital accounting work into policy and decision making. I think that's the important aspect that we're wanting this community of practice to really deliberate on within the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Deshni, for that very comprehensive presentation on the work of SANBI. The SG unfortunately has to leave us now, as he has another commitment. We're releasing a gender series report this morning. So they say that the youth is the future, but we believe that the youth is now. And so for our next speakers, we have Moko Makayane and Luvuyo Kani from SANBI, who have a very special presentation for us. So I'm going to invite them onto the stage. Thank you.
Good. There's a pointer if you, I don't know if you guys want it.
We'll try it. Cool.
Hi everyone, I am Luvuyo Kani.
And I'm Mohamakanyani.
But Asiphelelanga.
We also have Kumlani Suma, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. He's one of us, and together we are youth and NCA.
We all come from different walks of life, and we've been brought together by Natural Capital Accounting in an internship by Sanbi. For instance, I come from Rebecca, formerly known as Port Elizabeth, and I have a biological sciences background, majoring in conservation and statistics.
And I come from a small mining town in the Free State called Virginia, and I studied geography, majoring in GIS, remote sensing, and statistics. And not to forget one of our own, we have Kumlani, who comes from Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal, and he studied geology, measuring in engineering geology and also GIS.
So we are part of a broader team of colleagues at Sanbi, as well as other partner organizations. And NCA is a new frontier for all three of us, and we have been able to bring together our skills and contribute based on our strengths to further NCA work. So for instance, I have brought some expertise in coding, where I've automated the compiling, time-consuming components of compiling the accounts, and I've expanded my writing skills by writing popular articles for NCA.
And to add on what Luvuyo is to say about bringing skills, I've also learned to use a software which compiles accounts, and I've used my background in GIS and statistics, and I have been actively involved intensively actually at the core of developing South Africa's first ever accounts for strategic officers aids, which we are very excited about. And we're going to hear more about that by a presentation which Luvuyo has prepared later on for us.
So, because young minds are inquisitive minds, right? Having youth in the NCA community compels the NCA community to get clearer about what we are actually doing and why we are doing it. And this inspires co-creation from a fresh perspective.
Yes, Luvuyo. With the work we're doing in NCA currently, we definitely feel like we're part of people that are making change for future generations. Essentially, it is our future youth decisions are impacting. And as NCA is a growing field, it definitely needs to grow with the youth. We need to make sure that natural capital accounting and all its benefits appeal to the youth. I think Deshni and the DG mentioned mainstreaming. We definitely need to mainstream it, not just in Africa, but start here at home and mainstream it in high schools. Go back to university and tell students about natural capital accounting on social media, which is a playground for the youth, and also other relevant institutions and organizations.
Definitely. For this to happen, to make it possible, it requires all of us to work together to make sure that there's opportunities that are presented in the NCA community of work for the youth.
Totally, Luvuyo. And like the late, great Dr. Nelson Mandela once said, the youth of today are leaders of tomorrow. The future is now, and the youth is ready.
Ons is gereed.
You both have my vote for president. Thank you. Thank you for that very inspiring. I think that because when I was chatting with Amy, she was like, "Oh, this is good. That presentation is going to be so awesome," and she was not incorrect. So I'm going to call on Amy in her role as Mentimeter Fairy to please take us through the next